Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Hearthstone. So today you'll notice that my play button and arena button are highlighted and my open packs button is highlighted. This is weird. Well, it's because we're going to continue our deck building guides today. We're going to continue our deck building videos and we're going to talk about building budget decks. And the way we're going to do this is essentially I've actually started a new account on the EU server. Normally I'm a North American player, but I started up on the EU, and what I've done essentially is I've gone through and I've cleared out only the first bosses, the first sort of tutorial, and I've killed all of the basic computers, and so I unlocked all of the classes. What I've done specifically is I've done the druid. If we go back here to play mode, I'm not level 10 with any of these guys except the druid. I got him just to level 10 for the purposes of this video. And we're going to do some rank play with him, but we're going to craft a deck first. And so, essentially this is the ultimate budget challenge. I've put no money into this whatsoever. I've not actually opened any of the beginner packs or anything. Perhaps we will. But essentially right now we have nothing. Savage Roar, Swipe, Ironbark Protector, and Starfire you get from leveling up. I have one from, leveling with the mage. So this is it. These are all the druid cards that we get. What I want to do today is essentially build a ramp druid just like we did in the last video, but instead of building it with the excellent cards that, most ramp druid decks have, we're going to try to build it just normally, with absolutely nothing. And what you're going to find is that the techniques you use to build budget decks are exactly the same. So we're going to start with the core. And so we remember last time the core of the Ramp Druid deck is going to be 2 Innervates. Whoops. Of course, if I'm on deck building mode, that would be good. Is going to be 2 Innervates and 2 Wild Growths, right? Thanks, Innkeeper. This is the core of any ramp deck. And happily enough, they are basic cards, so we have access to them. And so that's what we're going to start with. We don't have Nourish, so we're not going to put that in. And now the next part of the Ramp Druid deck is putting out giant things faster than usual. So you want a sort of a late game, or a mid to late game, but you end up getting it in the early mid game because of how quickly you ramp up. So what big things are we going to innervate out? Well, before we put in a bunch of legendaries, we can't do that this time, so instead we're going to substitute the basic Ironbark Protector. 8/8 for 8 with a giant taunt, that's not a bad substitute at all. Basic cards, right? If we go all the way to the end, what do we have? Let's see. We have the Ogres, which are excellent cards in their own right. So they can stand in for things like, Sunwalkers or Sylvanas Rag, or, anything like that, really. And if we want high-end taunts, we could actually do Lord of the Arena as well, although I'm not as fond of only having 5 life. The 6 attack makes it a bit more aggressive, though. Let's put the value cards in. We know there's going to be Yetis. And let's see what else. Because we'll put in the Sengens as well, because there's a lot of aggressiveness going on in the meta right now. And so we've got a basic core of cards we're going to innervate out. Let's see. We probably want a couple more high-end cards to pump out, so let's put out the Lord of the Arena as well. And so that's nice and top-heavy there. Now, we want to fill this out as well with spells that will be helpful to us. And so we're going to put Swipe in there, right? And Mark of the Wild as well. We are going to want to taunt up creatures like the Yeti that we don't have taunted. So that's going to be helpful. Now, we don't have Wrath for card draw, and so that's going to be a bit of a problem. But the real purpose of Wrath is to have early removal, right? One of the big things about this is having a lot of early removal you want to control early in the game. And so, I'm dubious to put in Moonfires, but certainly Claw is going to be an excellent replacement, right? Really good in the early game. With your hero power on turn 3, 3 mana for 3 damage removal, and you take no damage, essentially, or, well... you block 3 damage with the armor. It's very nice. And I think because there's a lot of aggro going around right now, I like the idea of a healing touch in there anyway. So now we have a high-end core that we're going to innervate out, and we have some early game control. So I want more early game control though. And I think that the way we're going to have to do that on a budget is going to be putting in just high value creatures. It's going to end up being more of a tempo sort of a thing. And so harvest golems are common, as I'm sitting here flipping through looking for them desperately. So there's no harvest golems. What else do we have? Well, you know, the Oasis Snapjaws are actually excellent when combined with Mark of the Wild. They become 4/9 taunts, which is very strong. And the Gnomish Inventors are good too for card draw. And so those are both 4-drop minions. We're going to have a lot of 4s though, so I'm a little bit wary about that. The Darkscale Healer is good value for doing things like healing up your damaged taunts, because you know we're going to have a bunch of them. And the Gurubashi Berserker also synergizes very well with things like Mark of the Wild. So there's that too. I think that since our focus is going to be putting out big threats and that sort of a thing, and taunting them up and being very late game and bulky, I think I actually very much like the Gurubashi Berserkers, especially with their Mark of the Wild synergy. And it fills in that 5 slot nicely. We do want to try to get a curve going. And I think that for the same reason, the Oasis Snapjaw is not bad. Now, this is going to throw our 4s a bit out of whack, so I don't really like that. So we're probably going to need to get some more lower level cards in there too. I like Shattered Sun Clerics, very high value cards, and particularly when we're putting them in with taunts. It can save them from creatures on the board, that sort of thing. It's good. And what else? The one thing that I foresee being a problem without the Ancients of Lore is definitely going to be the card draw aspect. And so, you know, maybe instead of the Snapjaws, we should put in the Gnomish Inventors, because they're also good to taunt. That becomes a Druid of the Claw in taunt form if we Mark of the Wild it, so let's do that. And maybe we can round it out with Novice Engineers for the card draw as well. They're usually not very good, but I think that given that that will probably be our issue, then that's not a terrible idea. It gives us a low level drop as well. Although, really it sort of stings to not have something that's a 3/2, so it can trade well. We have one more card that we can put in. And looking at this curve, we have 8 late game cards, which is fine. We have 8 mid game cards, well, 11 really, and about 10 early game cards. And so it's pretty much a toss-up. This is going to be just flavor. We could put another Healing Touch. What else do we have over here? We don't have any big removal. I liked Starfall before. Savage Roar is a good thing to round it out, but I think actually I'm going to take a Starfire here, because it'll help with the card draw, and it will also help with high-end damage. So this deck is not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, but what's important to understand here when we're talking about building on a budget is that it does fill the same sort of role. The core goal of the Ramp Druid deck is to get giant things on the table early. We still have our ramp cards, so nothing there has changed. We still have early removal in terms of Claw. We still have things like, and Swipe for that matter. We still have a lot of big threats, and we still have a decent mid-game. We have good card draw as well. So I think that in general, is this going to be as effective as a regular Ramp Druid deck? No, absolutely not. But by the same token, this is the sort of process that you have to go through when you're building a budget deck. You got to think, what is it that we can put together to make it as effective as possible, given the resources that we have. And play to your strengths, right? You know, I put in Gurubashi Berserkers because they're sort of dubious cards. They can be excellent, and they can also be less good. But in this deck, we have Mark of the Wild, and so we can turn them into something really, really great. In a normal Druid deck, I would not put them in. I would put something else in, but because we're on a budget, and because we have a means to sort of make them better, I'm actually okay with doing that. So what I want to do before we actually get into it is I do want to open up some packs and see what we get here. I got another 100 gold, so we can get this here and see what this gives us. See if this changes our mind any. Because the average player will certainly have a couple of extra cards anyway. Okay, nothing really special there. Okay, so nothing all that helpful to our deck. But that's okay. So That's sort of realistic, really. I mean, for budget decks, it is likely that you would end up having, you know, probably some rares, right? Druid of the Claw is not hard to craft, that sort of thing. You could probably put that together. But I think this is a good concept to demonstrate on just a pure budget basis how we're going to do this. So I'm actually going to play a game with this and get the other pack here, and just show you that it plays in a similar way to a regular old Ramp Druid deck, even on a budget. Okay, so the first opponent for our extremely budget Druid deck is a Rogue.
I must protect the wild.
And how about that? We have the Coin Innervate for the Sen'jin Shieldmaster, and we have the Wild Growth too. So we actually have a good start here. And I'm going to keep the Lord of the Arena because we have Wild Growth. We have the first turn Sinister Strike. Excellent. That is, alright, that's cool. Okay, so we're going to get this Sen'jin Shieldmaster on the field. Now, against a Rogue, that's normally a bad idea, and maybe I'll pay for that because he has Sap, but hopefully not. Next turn will be the Wild Growth, and he does have Sap. Alright, well, and that is a #1 lesson in why you do not do what I just did against a Rogue. See, what I'm doing is bad because I'm being complacent because we're at rank 25, but I should actually make sure that I win the game, as opposed to losing to somebody who Sinister Struck on the first turn, and on the second, or the third turn too.
Ready for action.
Mad value, oh, and with the Goldshire Footman as well. Oh, we have, this is an exceptional match already. Okay, well, he's gonna get the free Sen'jin Shieldmaster.
Blood and plunder.
The 4-cost Dread Corsair. Okay, well, the unfortunate piece is that we don't actually have a better thing to do here, so we're gonna Wild Growth and Hero Power. And I don't actually see a reason to hit him. All of the things we have in our hand are fine.
We must cleanse the Sunwell.
Okay, well, so we have a number of options now. So we can Starfire that for another card, which I'm actually not so opposed to. I would like to get out the Lord of the Arena, and maybe that is the better play at the end of the day. But I do want the card. And next turn we can put out the Ironbark Protector, or we can put out the Lord of the Arena and the Hero Power. So, yeah, I think we'll Starfire this.
Job's done.
Healing Touch is nice. We can negate all of the Sinister Strike damage.
Tazdingo! Yes!
Okay, so in case he's got something like an Assassinate holding back there, I'm gonna just put down the Gurubashi Berserker and heal.
Job's done.
And then we'll put down something bigger next turn. Okay, good. So we can die, but it did go 2 for 1 there. That's pretty cool. Okay, so that's annoying. I would like to put out bigger things, as is the style of Ramp, but I think it would be better to... Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm going to put out the Lord of the Arena and the Hero Power. We'll take out the Boar, and then next turn we can efficiently do the Ogre and the Sen'jin. Okay, this is why we put out the smaller threats first, because better that they use the backstab on this than on my Ironbark Protector. Will he take it out himself? He will. And he will do it with the Assassin's Blade instead of using the rest of the charge on what he had. Cool. Okay. Well, so given that he has no more cards, we're happy to just put out the small taunt. It seems against all odds from the early Sen'jin Shield Mass to play, we have pulled this back. Oh, we're gonna sap the Ogre. That's alright. We're still efficient to play it next turn with the Yeti. We could also play it with the Gnomish Inventor, but I think I'm happy to do this instead. Well, no, I'll put it out there. That's fine. Card draw is good. And next turn we can be efficient again. Put out the Lord of the Arena, the Childman Yeti.
The light protects me.
The other thing that we could do is Claw with the Lord of the Arena and the Shattered Sun Cleric. Yeah, you know what? Why give him any quarter? We'll clean out his
We
board.
must cleanse the Sunwell.
And what we won't... that's annoying. The thing is, so if I pump up any of these creatures here except this, which I don't want to do, then we lose to the Big Game Hunter, or at least the Big Game Hunter kills it. But I'm not concerned about the Big Game Hunter because this person is running 2 Sinister Strikes. If it is the case that the Big Game Hunter comes out, I will be pretty shocked.
What you want?
There we go. That's the more appropriate response at this level, I think.
I give up.
Alright. So what you can see there, so it's not that we won there that matters. What matters is that we actually played like a Ramp Druid would play, right? We did double wild growth right at the beginning. We, quite soon, we did innervate coin out, you know, some stuff, and it was good. So, you know, I think that went well. Now let's have a look at what we got here, see if there's anything relevant. And then we'll talk about crafting stuff, just very briefly. This is just a low-level pack here. We did get the Harvest Golem, which is very nice. And the Mark of Nature for the Druid, which is not bad either. Okay. So let's see how we can improve this now that we have some cards. So, all this is whatever. Leper Gnome, Dire Wolf. Lots of 3-drops. That's interesting. And the Warrior. And the Silverhand Knight, which is a great card, and the Frost Wolf, or the Frost Elemental. Okay, so we probably want to add in the Harvest Golem. So what do we want to get rid of? Well, I like having the Healing Touch in there. I like having the Shattered Sun Clerics. 2 of them are quite nice. I think that I'm going to take out one of the Novice Engineers for them. Those are very, very temporary cards. And we'll put that in. Now, so that brings up another sort of important point with that, right? So you got to identify when you're playing your budget deck what cards are temporary. So Novice Engineer is not an ideal card. I put it in there for a placeholder, right? So the more better cards that I get, like another Harvest Golem or something like that, I would switch out with the Novice Engineer. It has good card draw, but this is much more valuable. Now I could put in something like the Injured Blade Master instead, but I like having something that stays on the board, and this is utility because it gives us a card, and this is utility because we have a sort of a more minions than we normally would with the same amount of cards. So I like that. But the process as you get more cards is just refining and refining and refining, that sort of thing, and putting in higher value stuff and going from there. Now, let's talk briefly about crafting before we're done here. Crafting, essentially, is the idea that so what a lot of people do, you know, if you watch Trump or Reynad or anybody who does sort of the free-to-play idea, where they do exactly what I'm doing, essentially. They make a new account, or they play on the other servers with absolutely no cards, and they start building a deck and they just go. What they do is they stick with their, you know, they're going to play Druid, and they disenchant everything they own, and as a result, they disenchant everything rather that is not theirs, not Druid. They disenchant the Hunter card they just got, or any of the stuff that is uncommon, or common rather, and get dust for their main thing. So they drive better cards for their main class. That's a good idea. But by the same token, I don't actually like that if you're just new to the game and starting out, right? So when you're new and you don't really know what class you like to play, they're all different, they're all good. I enjoy playing all of them. They all have different feels. It's really crappy to disenchant cards for one deck, okay? So like, if I got a Direwolf Alpha in a pack right now, am I going to use it for this deck? Probably not. But it would be such a shame to get rid of it, because in all likelihood, you will use it some other time. For Zoo or is the common idea, but I mean, there are lots of decks that use Direwolves. Same with any of these. All of these rares, these are great rares. Even though they are rare and you don't tend to, well, they are rare, but they're rare in the ladder as well. I would not disenchant them for the sake of building a particular deck when you're starting out, and particularly with class cards, right? So like I got, what did I get here? I didn't get any class rares, I don't think, but I did get, so like Snipe. Snipe is not used very often, and it's a common. We could disenchant this, right? But it's 5 dust. I need to disenchant 8 of them to get 1 common. And what if I ever want to play Hunter? And what if I find that I need a Snipe, right? There have been lots of times where I disenchanted things like this, like the Defias Ringleader, when I was just starting out, and I hated myself for it later because there were cards that I really wanted. When I was just starting out, to give you a horror story, I disenchanted Gorehowl because I thought I'd never use it for any reason because I hate the Warrior. Well, it turns out that I actually like the Warrior. And since I've since gotten another Gorehowl, but for a long time I could never play the Warrior because I didn't have a Gorehowl. Well, never play like Control Warrior anyway. So if you're new and just starting out, I wouldn't actually encourage you to get rid of cards, because, especially if you're new, frankly, you won't have the best judgment about which cards are useful and which ones are useless. So somebody might say, oh man, Injured Blade Master, that's not very good. I mean, he does damage to himself. I'm going to get rid of this for something else. If you play Priest, he's amazing. And aside from which, he's a 4/3 for 3, no matter how you cut it. So actually, the Injured Blade Master is pretty great. So, it's judgment calls like this that, in my opinion, it's better to wait until you have a lot more cards. What I do instead is just play. Play and play an arena, and slowly get some money via doing all the basic quests. So like if we go back to the practice mode, if you beat all of the expert computers, you get another pack. You get packs. I just got the one of the starting quests to kill three games in play mode, that sort of thing. But yeah, so there you go. So that's the very basics of playing a budget deck, an extreme budget deck. I don't think I'm going to do free to play with this deck like Trump and Reynad and the rest of them, but I might play around on it and just sort of see how far I can get with something like this. But that's the basics, right? Start with the same core as any other deck, right? Start with the exact same win condition and core. Keep that really clearly in mind. And then build to it with budget cards, Put in big cards in this particular case that you're going to ramp to, and fill it out with a nice curve in the middle, and have some early game control. I mean, it's that simple. So in any case, thanks so much for watching, guys. And remember, if you like the deck building series and you enjoy what I have to say, let me know if there's anything in particular that you want to see, and I'll do my best to cover it. I want to make stuff for you guys, and I want to make stuff that you enjoy, so let me know what that is. So thanks very much, guys, and I'll see you next time.